So I want to introduce you to the coffee of the week. It's by Paramount Coffee. I've never heard of this company before. We were just browsing our local TJ Maxx that we just recently got, and I come across this bag of coffee called Joe Coffee, and I just had to have it. Joe, cup of Joe. Hey. So I've been drinking it now for 2 days, and this coffee is not too shabby. I only paid $5.99 for the bag. Here it's listed at $11.99, so I got it over half price at TJ Maxx. So guys, this is the coffee of the week. Wake up, Joe. I get told that a lot. Let's move on to the video. All right, welcome back to another episode of Homebrew Computing. So we're going to start out kind of with an old/new topic. It's one that I thought I had already posted, but my coworker had pointed out to me the other day that I did not. And when I went back and looked, lo and behold, I had not done it. And it's about reverse proxies. Guys, I know this is getting old, but he really would like to see how I set up my reverse proxy, and I'm going to do that for him. And I know I covered this topic in the last set of videos with Nest Security, but that was a web-based reverse proxy, and it's super simple, but he wants to see how to do this because he's not running Nest at his house. And guys, I know, I get it. I could use Cloudflare. I 100% understand, but I just don't feel comfortable enough to be giving my information to a provider that offers a service for free, where I have not fully read and understand the terms and services of the stuff that I'm about to give them, or the data that I'm about to run through their free service. So with that being said, I'm going to continue to host my own reverse proxy with Let's Encrypt, and I'm perfectly fine with that. You can eat me alive saying it's safe. I don't care. This is just my preference. So let's get on with the show, and let's start out on how we're going to make this happen. So in my home network inside where Homebrew Computing currently still resides, I used a VM. But in Proxmox, you have an option to set up what is called an LXC machine, and or LXC container, excuse me. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to use an LXC container to actually get this up and going, because LXCs are just I guess they're kind of similar to what a Docker is. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get on to it, and let's talk about a couple of the requirements before we get started. A, you got to have a domain name, and B, you got to have your DNS record set correctly. So you need to have your domain. So in this case, we're doing a subdomain of test.captamazing85.com. And you also got to be able to port forward things in your router. So most of your home grade routers do port forwarding. If yours does not, then you will have to find another way to do this, or buy a new router or something, or hey, run Nest Security on a machine like I have and watch that video. So nonetheless, let's move on. Those are the three major requirements we got to have. Next, let's get on to setting up the LXC container. So we're here, and the first thing we need to do is go to a folder that I created. You can store this template anywhere you want to, but I'm going to choose to store it here. So we go to CT templates, we look at our templates, and we scroll through this, and you're going to be overwhelmed because there are a ton of templates, and there's some turnkey templates down here that have programs that when you launch them are set up and going. I did see WordPress a while ago, which is pretty cool. WordPress is a website creator that you can use. I may actually explore that to see what WordPress is all about. And there is a game server, OpenCart, Ghost. Half of this stuff I have no clue what it is. Just Django, I know what that is. That's another. There's a domain controller. So there are tons of stuff you can use. So the one we're going to focus on, though, is we're going to download Ubuntu Standard 23.4. So let's click on download. And sometimes this goes really quick, and sometimes it goes really slow. So this time it'll probably go really slow. So we're going to pause this for a moment while it downloads. Okay, so the template is now downloaded. You see that it says task OK, so we can close out of this. And when we do, it populates with the template that we just downloaded. So next, let's go to create CT. It auto increments to the next ID number, and let's give it, and you can name it whatever you want to. Just you can leave it to auto increment. So let's do test nginx. All right, let's give it a password and another password to our matching password. Sorry, and then you can load your SSH keys in if you have those available, so you can SSH in this without putting a username in. But I don't have those. Or username and password, but I don't have an SSH public key. Need to get one. It's on my list to do. So that's where our template is stored. Hit next, disk. I want to change that to where my VMs are located. So we'll give 20 gigs. Probably could get away with 8, but we're going to do 20 just to be safe because I have the disk space. We're going to give this 2 cores. And it says 512 megabytes of memory is all it needs, but we're going to give this unit 2048. And I was noticing on the machine I did spin up just to do testing before I started this, that it really is only using about 34 megabytes of memory. But hey, I've got the memory, let's use it. We'll leave the swap the same. The network, this is where you will have to choose your appropriate bridge. I have 4 network ports in this machine and I had a spare one, so I decided to create a new bridge just for the reverse proxy, but you can use whatever one you have available. All right, so if that bridge is in a different VLAN or you want this to be assigned another IP address, here you would put your VLAN tag. Next, I have a non-distributed range of 1 through 10, and I know 1 through 2 are used, and my next available one is .3, so we're going to use .3 for this. You really want to set this as static. You do not want this to be DHCP, because when you set the port forwarding rules up, if the IP address does change, you will have to go in and make these changes to the port forwarding rules. So we'll set it a subnet, and then we are going to give it a default gateway because we need internet access to make this work. The IPv6 we're not going to worry about. DNS, we'll leave that the same. And this is the confirm page of what everything this Proxmox is about to do for this LXC container. So you can click on start after creation, and that's what we're going to do here. We'll click finished, and it takes just a moment to spin this up. Awesome, that is done. All right, so we should be able to come over here, and you can see before we even got to it, the machine is already up and going. And we're able to log into it. So root is the username and the password that we just set. All right, so we're in it. So we're going to go to Christian's Git page, and we're going to look at here at the first step. He says to run app update. We will copy that, and we'll come in here and paste. Now, he doesn't do the upgrade. I am going to do that because I want to make sure this server is fully patched with every security vulnerability that is known in this version, because this is the older version of Ubuntu server. So I want to make sure everything is patched. So we'll hit up again, and we'll take out date, and we'll do upgrade. And I'll pause this while it does it, because this is not a lengthy process, but it does take a little bit of time. All right, now that the container is fully updated and ready to roll, we're ready to install Nginx. So let's go back over to what Christian has, and we're going to do app install Nginx. We'll copy that, and let's clear our screen so we can see good. And then we will paste that in. Guys, Control V doesn't work in this one for some reason in the shell console. I don't know why, so you have to right click. Let's clear out the screen. So we're going to give it just a few moments to get the service up and going, and I will pause the video while we wait for that. Okay, so that should be ample time for Nginx to be fully up and going. So let's verify that Nginx is working. And if you get this message, you have successfully set up Nginx. Pretty easy, right? So let's go on to the next step. And the next step is we need to create the default config file, but it's already in there. It's when we get to this folder, the default config file actually exists, and Christian uses something is similar to WinSCP. I'm not sure exactly what he's using to exploit these files, but if you do this, I've noticed you cannot delete the file because it's rewriting, and I don't understand. You're logging in as root, and I couldn't delete it. So we're actually going to do this via the command line. It's very simple. So we're going to cd into /etc, Nginx, and then sites enabled. Let's do an ls. You can see the files there. Let's do a rem and default. We're going to remove it. And if we do an ls again, you see the folder is gone. So let's create that file again. All right, so we have a nice blank file for our default config for Nginx to load. So this is where I'm going to change it up from what Christian done, because the way I understood his video, he is only doing this locally. He wants to have a certificate, so every time he goes to it, he doesn't have that certificate warning. But we are exposing this stuff to the web, and when I was setting this up for Home Assistant, I could not get it to work, and I found an article that was archived, and I will link it below. And this is it. This is the article. It took a lot of digging, and I actually had to go through this quite a bit to understand it, but I'm going to make it easy on you and what works in my house. And I know this works because I've tried it again out here. So let's open this up. And this is the default config we need to paste in that default config file. So we're going to copy everything from map all the way down to this closing bracket, and we'll do copy. We'll come back over here and we will paste this in. That's great. Now we have this in. There's one more step we need to do before we get going. We need to go up here to this line, and everything within the quotes we need to take out. And we need to put the IP address of the service we wish to expose. In this case, it is going to be Proxmox for a test. Oops. If I could type tonight. And make sure you include the port at which that service is located as well. Next, we need to go to this line, and same thing, everything in the quotation marks we need to take out because this is your domain. So you will enter your domain here you wish to point to. In my case, it's captainamazing85.com. All right, so that is the only two things you need to change to get the service up and going. And once we do, you will see that, and then when we go to the 40.3, it actually does the reverse proxy back to the Proxmox box without you ever typing anything. Control X, write the buffer. Yes, that is good. Let's clear our screen out one more time, and let's do this system CTL reload Nginx. And if you have no error messages, you have successfully set the default config, and we're going to test and see if that is up and going. Again, let's give the service a few moments to start, and I will come right back. All right, the service is fully rebooted or reloaded. So let's see what happens now when we go to that same IP address. We don't need the port. And now you can see the reverse proxy is successfully redirecting us to the Proxmox box without having to type a port in. Now the next step is how are we going to secure this website? Well, we're going to do that with Let's Encrypt and what's called CertBot. That reaches out to the Let's Encrypt servers and then allows you to pull in a free SSL certificate that will secure your site, since you are going to have this publicly facing and you want to make sure you're doing everything possible to make sure that this is secure. One bit of importance I want to point out to you as well, if your application offers multi-factor authentication, you need to set that up as well. You need to take every step you can to make sure you secure this box, make sure it stays up to date, because you are exposing this to potential people who are trying to break into your stuff. Because if you watch your network with the Unify or even this Nest Security, you can see people trying to attack it all day long. They don't stop. So always make sure you have multi-factor set up. Always make sure you're keeping it up to date with the latest security patches. And that's about all you can do in this case. But I'm not going to expose my Proxmox to the public. I don't want that to happen. I will just VPN into the network if I ever need to access it outside. So we've got that set up. Now let's move on to the next step. We're going to come back to what Christian does, and this is where we're going to install the CertBot. So we will copy everything from apt over. Since we're a root user, we do not have to sudo in this case. We'll paste that in, and we'll hit enter. And yes, we would like to install it. Awesome. So CertBot is installed. Now we need to move on to the next step. We need to go to our router and ensure we have the proper ports forwarded down. So we can get a Let's Encrypt and certificate, and also the reverse proxy will forward that out or forward those down to the appropriate service. So let's go to our router. I'm at my port forwarding rules. So let's add a port. We'll call it Let's Encrypt. The protocols are already automatically selected for you in this version of Nest Security. If they're not, make sure you choose at least TCP. Port 80. And the IP address of the reverse proxy. And then we want to make sure that is only coming in for port 80. The next rule we need to add in is to reverse proxy. Protocol, again, these two are fine. Source port will be 443. Destination address will be of the XL XLC container that we just created. And the destination port, I'm going to leave that to any, because some of my services like Proxmox are 443 and some of the others are port 80. So that will be non-HTTPS. So if you leave it to any, that will ensure that any port that is requesting will go down to it. Add port. And then we're going to click unsave changes. If again, this is probably not even relative to your router. Everything is different. So make sure you do have these 2 ports forwarded. All right, so we have that all done. Let's clear out our screen so we can see what's going on. And let's just CD back to the root folder. All right, the next step is we need to request a certificate from Let's Encrypt. And we do this by copying this command right here, certbot -nginx-d, and the D stands for domain. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste this in. All right, now that we have this in, I hope I have everything correctly typed this time. We're going to do test.captamazing85.com. And hopefully if I type everything correctly and everything, your DNS is fully propagated across every DNS server, you should receive a certificate from Let's Encrypt. All right, so now it's prompting us for our email. And I really hope they let this go through because I've requested this a couple times. Do we agree to the terms of service? Again, we don't get to view those, but we're going to agree anyways. And am I willing to receive emails? I really should because they're providing this for free, but in this case, we're going to say no. And now it's requesting certificate. And if everything goes good, it should deploy it automatically for you and modify that default config file. So let's go to clear again so we can see everything. Let's go to CD /etc nginx sites enabled and nano the default. And you can see that it has added some lines into that default config. That is great. We should be able now to actually go and see it. And I'm going to do this from inside. I'm going to pull up a video. Well, I'm going to record a video and pull it in so you can see that it actually is working, because I wanted to show you that my home network is different from my my house network from my shop network. And that way it does appear that it's coming from the public. And let's clear our screen one more time. And let's do a system CTL reload nginx. So this will reload everything once more, and we should be able to come over here and actually view the certificate once everything gets reloaded. So I'm going to pause this real quick. All right, so I just clicked reload the page. So this is what you have to do. Since you were loading a non-HTTPS, and we have to make sure we're starting out with that to be able to get to it. And we can take away that port. And now we're going to see that we have an invalid certificate. We'll hit continue. And we are here. We do have a valid certificate given to us because we're not using the domain name. We're using an IP address. It does not know that is it's not secure. Hey, this certificate doesn't match this name. But you can see we successfully got one for test.captamazing85. That's the common name. It's from Let's Encrypt. You can see that we just got it, and it will expire in 3 months. So awesome. We should be able to go in our house and actually see if we can get to it. So let's pause this video while I run in. I'll record that real quick and come back out here and let you see the results. All right, so this is a screen capture of my house, or my laptop in my house. This is on a completely different public IP address, so it appears that if it's coming in from an outside network. So let's hit play. Now I'm going to forewarn you, this is from an earlier video. I wasn't happy with the way it recorded, but you can see that it does work, and I promise you this will work as well just for you. It's still the same time. It's just a little bit later in the day. I come back to re-record this. And that is basically it, guys. You successfully set up a reverse proxy with Let's Encrypt. Now, there is going to be some questions, I know, and I'm going to answer them just real quick. Well, what if you have multiple services that you want to expose? So it's very simple. So let's go back into our default config. And you see that now that we have all this extra stuff, we have this here. We need to add in another line. So we're going to go right below this one. And we're going to simply just copy and paste. Not going to copy this time. We're going to copy everything from this point on. Well, actually, I'm sorry, from, is it this point? No, because that would be the start. Yeah, this point on. I could be wrong. So let's copy that in and paste. So we should be able to do the same thing. And I could be wrong. Let's just make sure I'm right. We're going to do the same IP address just to make sure. Oops. Got to do this. There we go. And then we'll just give this name a test2. It shouldn't matter here. All right. So if we copied this all correctly, we should be able to do Control X, write the buffer, hit yes, and let's do a reload. And so we successfully started up another server in reverse proxy. You will go out again, point your DNS to that, test that too, for example, and then go out and follow all those same commands again. It will populate with the new Let's Encrypt certificate just for that, and you are off and ready to roll. That is it, guys. That is all there is to setting up a reverse proxy with Nginx and Let's Encrypt. One more thing I do want to talk about. I'm going to retract the statement I made about Squarespace. Once they fully took over Google domains and now they're the full owners of it, they did bring in pointer records, so I have to retract that statement. I was kind of upset after I read the email from the gentleman saying they had no plans on bringing that in, but once they fully took over, all those records that were available on Google domains is now available on Squarespace. So guys, everybody that gets a sponsorship from Squarespace, they are now legitimate. So guys, that's it. That's all I got for this video. It's probably the shortest one I've ever made. It's longer than I hoped it to be, but you know, hey, you can now set up a reverse proxy with Let's Encrypt and be able to expose your services to the public. So we will catch you in the next one.